Om Jnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Continuing the topic of overcoming obstacles in always remembering Krishna. I spoke in a general way with the statement that the only or the basic obstacle is our own unwillingness to remember Krishna, which has become like an embedded condition, which is to be overcome by the process of sadhana bhakti. And in this regard, we together sung a kirtan of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in which he is repeatedly emphasizing that there is no other way but to perform bhajan, or what we would call sadhana. So how to overcome all obstacles? What's the simple solution? Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalona, Srila, Gatiranyata. I presume you all know the meaning of this verse. And then the question will come, well, there are obstacles to chanting, or I'm chanting and I don't feel any taste, and on and on and on. It's just like people who say, well, God is the ultimate source of everything. Well, then someone will ask, well, who created God? And if you can find someone who created God, then that person becomes God. And then you'll say, well, actually in the Christian religion, it seems like they believe in Lord Brahma as God. They emphasize God as the creator. But who created Lord Brahma? Narayana. Narayana is Krishna. So if you say, well, who created God? And then that becomes God. And you say, well, who created that one person? Then you go on with an infinite regression. So the answer to this infinite regression is that there's someone who's in a completely different category to everyone else, and that is Krishna. He's the source of everything. So if we say that, well, the way to remember Krishna always is to chant his name, always, or at least to make a good start by taking up the regulated process of sadhana. And then we'll say, well, there are obstacles. Someone will say, well, there are obstacles to my doing this. And from time to time we meet devotees who They come and say, well, I have this obstacle, and then you make some suggestion, and they say, well, I can't do that because of this, and it seems that whatever solution you want to offer, they have some other obstacle. They have an infinite regression of obstacles, of reasons why they can't take the Krishna consciousness seriously. So the solution to this is at some point we have to make a decision that I want to be Krishna conscious, and I have to do whatever is necessary to become Krishna conscious. So again, these are general principles, and different devotees have their own individual situations. Last night one young lady approached me. Young lady means she was 16 years old. She is 16 years old, and told me that, well, her family members are all against her being Krishna conscious. What should she do? So apart from general principles, there are individual situations, and we all have by the grace of the material energy, various obstacles that we personally face. And I could leave a little time at the end of this session if anyone wanted to present their own individual obstacles that I could suggest. I might be able to suggest some possible ways to overcome those obstacles. Just like last night I suggested to this young lady that your family members can't be totally against you being Krishna conscious because they've allowed you to come here to this camp. So better not agitate them, or if they're not interested in listening to your trying to convert them to Krishna consciousness, don't try to do so. But in other ways, if you act as an ideal daughter, then they'll appreciate it. So 2 days ago we sung this song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in which he's recommending bhajan bina gati naire. There's no way to reach the goal without accepting the path of bhajan. and he repeats, or he gives the names of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and many of his followers, and recommends, remember all of these great personalities. So by remembering Lord Chaitanya and all the great devotees, they can help us to overcome all obstacles on the path of Krishna consciousness. So in this regard, I'd like to suggest that everyone in their apartment or your student hostel or wherever you live, you keep prominently displayed a large picture of Srila Prabhupada. Actually, Srila Prabhupada wanted in all the ISKCON temples, there's a letter in this regard, large paintings on the wall of himself, his own Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So at least you keep a large picture of Srila Prabhupada, and then you can remember who is here. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, remember. So you remember Prabhupada more easily if we repeatedly see his photo. And as Srila Prabhupada almost always signed his letters as your ever well-wisher, so that will constantly remind us that we do have an ever well-wisher, that despite our whatever difficult circumstances we're in, and we're all in difficult circumstances, and despite our own many inadequacies, that we do have a very competent and merciful well-wisher. As Srila Prabhupada said, just hold on to my dhoti and I'll take you back to God. Now we can sing another kirtan of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, which is one following on the one we sung 2 days ago, in which he is naming many of the obstacles on our path of attaining pure Krishna consciousness. Yeah, these are our anarthas, or our internal, the manifestations of our not being Krishna conscious. So everyone, this is the song beginning, Bhavana Bhavana Mon, Tumi Ati Dushta, Vishoy Vishoy Ache He. It's a little bit different. There's the word Bhavana, and this is Bhavana. It's similar, but it's different. Bhavana means attitude or way of thinking, and Bhavana is imperative. Just think about it. Just consider it. Again, this is a song I don't have much practice in singing, so you'll have to bear with me if I screw it up a bit. But you only get to practice by singing it. So we'll pray for Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mercy. This is instructions to one's own mind. Oh mind, just consider. Oh, you're just a rascal. The poison of sense gratification. Acho hai. It literally means you are the poison of sense. You are in the poison of sense gratification. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mada, Adi, Abhishta. You're completely absorbed in lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, etc. It's a pretty severe analysis, isn't it? Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, just have a look at yourself, see what's there. Elsewhere in Chaitanya Shikamrita, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so he recommends this. Introspection, have a look inside, see what's going on. Could someone who speaks Russian ask the devotees in the hallway to be a little quiet, please? I guess they're probably on their way out anyway. So what's inside? What's going on inside? Are we always remembering Krishna? Or are we absorbed in lust, greed, anger, envy, illusion? Envy isn't said. Illusion, madness, and envy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we're in the grip of these enemies. These are our enemies. And we have a thirst for, it's like we're thirsty for, we have a very strong attraction to asadvarta, means discussions, topics of this material world, or anything which is not connected to Krishna. We're attached to that. Bhakti mukti, we're attached to material enjoyment, and maybe the desire for liberation also. Basically all activities performed not in Krishna consciousness are either to increase our material enjoyment or to decrease our material suffering, or to get free from material suffering. And all our discussions and all our deliberations and plans are based on how to increase our material enjoyment and get free from material suffering. Both of these endeavors, which are considered laudable by non-devotees, and which indeed are the only topics for non-devotees, which is the only way of thinking of non-devotees, are considered abominable in Krishna consciousness. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is blaming his mind. Ashat kata bhalo lage hai. You like all this stuff. Pratishdasha kutinati shatadi pishta. And you are concerned with increasing your prestige, your duplicitous, cheating mentality, and so on. And this seems very nice to you, but actually you are crushed by this. Maya is crushing us on account of this, pulverizing us, which means like powdering, pounding. Sharal to holenai, we're not simple. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he equates simplicity with Vaishnavism. Simplicity doesn't mean to be like a fool, but it means that we don't deal with people duplicities, or we don't have any motivation or intention to do so. Or, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also said, a Vaishnava means one whose inside and outside is the same, not cutting a profile, if you know what that means. Do you know what that means? Yeah, exactly. Behaving in a way to look better than you actually, or to appear to be like something which actually you're not. Gireche tomare bhai eshab, what's that word? Orishta. So your brother, you are surrounded by all of these. Arishta means like some bad omen. Omen? You got that one? Yeah, well it means like something which, it's a sign of something bad is going to come on later on. And again, these are all enemies. Now, E Shabna Chare Kishe Pabe Radha Krishna. Just consider. This is all being presented for consideration. If we don't give these up, then how are we going to attain Radha Krishna? There are many books available nowadays about the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But we have no entrance there as long as we are cultivating Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Madadi. There's all these lust, anger, greed, etc. It's a rhetorical question. How can we attain Radha Krishna unless we give up all these bad things? Lust, greed, anger, duplicity. By asking a rhetorical question, it makes the statement more, a clear statement more, it gives it more emphasis. Because if there's a question, then you have to think about the answers. If we just say that, if you don't give these up, you won't get Radha and Krishna. So we think, okay, let's go. But if we ask a question, that unless we give these up, how can we attain Radha and Krishna? And we start to think about it, well, then we think, no, it's just absolutely impossible. Therefore, jatane charo, just make a point of it, get serious, very carefully, give up all of these things, give them all up. Well, how are we going to do that? Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the clue, Sadhu Sangha Bina A Kota Tava Ishta, that we need the association of devotees. We cannot attain our desired goal unless we take help from, association from. Therefore, sadhu sangha, karo he, associate with devotees, associate with devotees. Vaishnav charani majja, that you take pleasure in the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. Previously it was stated, Ashat Bharta Bhukti Mukti Pipasha Akrishta Ashat Kata Bhalo Lage. You like all these things, all these discussions of worldly affairs, but instead of liking that, just like to be at the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. And then Guchibe Anishta, all the unwanted things will vanish. Ekbar Bhave Dekho Hai. Just try it out. Just one time. Just check it out and see what happens. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said. In Sripad Ramanuja Acharya's instructions, there are so many instructions what to do, how to be Krishna conscious. And he suggested, after giving all these suggestions, he said, if you can't do any of these, if you're so completely useless that you can't do any of these, just go and sit in the association of Vaishnavas. Just be close to them. Just keep association. Somehow or other, keep association. Somehow or other, if you keep association with the Vaishnavas, then we can become the objects of their affection. Alright, well, are there any questions on this? Yeah. If you like, you can write them down. Writing down usually helps to make the inquiry more clear. Okay. Alright, we have one. They can be in Lithuanian also. I hope we have a Lithuanian. Someone can translate in Lithuanian.
Obstacle disciplining the mind. Explanation. But the sadhus and sadhisava should discipline the mind very sternly. Often when the material desires flood the mind, I feel not able to chastise it or stop the nonsense. Can you give us the tools, like the cane and shoes?
That's a famous... Did you read it in Russian?
Not yet.
That's a famous quote of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that in the morning, on rising, you beat the mind 100 times, what is it, with shoes, and in the evening with a broomstick, something like that. The idea you should beat your mind morning and evening. Well, what does that mean? Obviously it's not literal, because you can't literally beat your mind with shoes or anything else physically. But the idea is given that a regular, strenuous effort must be made to rid the mind of all the nonsense. So, well, it comes back to the same point that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving here also, that we have to strenuously and very seriously take to the process of Krishna consciousness. Something I often say, which shocks people usually, is I look at them and say, "You're going to die soon." And they might think I curse them, or I have some mystical insights, but we're all going to die soon. So, this verse we should consider again and again and again, that labdva sudurlabhamidam bahusambhavante manusham artadama nityam api hadhira turnam yatetana patedanu mrityayava nishrayasana vishayakulu sarvata syat. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur vowed to preach this verse from Krishna's instructions in Bhagavatam up to his last breath. The meaning is that human life is very rare, but somehow or other right now we've got it. It doesn't last very long. We're all going to drop down dead very soon. So when I say you're going to die soon, it's not a curse, it's a statement of fact, and it's a statement from Shastra also. However, the human form of life is very valuable, because in this form of life we can undertake those practices which will save us from entering another body. So we should do whatever is necessary before this body drops down, so that we don't drop down into another womb, but we go up to Krishna. And if we are alarmed at this prospect, if we think, well, what about enjoying my senses? Then we should consider that sense gratification is available in every form of life. We've already done it. Whatever kind of sense gratification we can imagine, and even many kinds which at present we can't imagine. We've done it before. And if we don't take Krishna consciousness seriously in this lifetime, then we're going to have many other opportunities to enjoy it in future. So it's good, along with the big picture of Prabhupada, you can put this verse on the wall in your home, or in your ashram, or your traveling Sankirtan van, or whatever. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had this on the wall in his home, Bhakti Bhavan in Calcutta. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was seeing this from his childhood. He'd see this every day. So beat the mind. Just remember, we don't have long. We have to take this Krishna consciousness very seriously. Practical techniques: chant Hare Krishna loudly. When we're bombarded by material desires, chant Hare Krishna loudly. Call out to Krishna. Ai Nandata Kiduram Patitam Bhavam Vishame Bhalam Udho Kripaya Tavapada Pankajas Stita Dhuli Sadrisham Vichintaya. Oh Krishna, I am yours, but I forgot you. I've come to this horrible material world. I'm trying to chant Hare Krishna. I'm not very good at it, but I'm trying. Somewhere in my being there's some idea that I should be serving you. Amidst all these hundreds and thousands of perverted desires, somewhere in there's a real desire to serve you, Krishna. So please pull me out of all this nonsense. Nourish that real, pure desire and crush all these nasty desires. Krishna was dancing on the head of Kaliya. So many poisonous hoods of the serpent were trying to catch Krishna and bite him. And Krishna danced on their heads and eventually crushed them. So we can pray to Krishna to, in this way, dance in our hearts and crush all the nasty material desires. Yeah, any other question there? It's in English?
Yeah.
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada gave instruction to cooperate with the Chala to follow temple authorities. My spiritual master also has emphasized it. My problem is the local authorities, as far as I have seen, do not follow sadhana very strictly, and I find it destructive for my Krishna consciousness to associate with them. At the same time, I'm not sure that I can remain very enthusiastic if practicing alone. Could you please suggest some solution? Thank you very much.
Very difficult situation. Srila Prabhupada also instructed that leaders within the Krishna Conscious Society should be primarily spiritual leaders. When leaders themselves don't follow the basic practices of Krishna consciousness but insist that others follow their authority, we can't expect those in their stewardship to prosper very nicely spiritually. So anyway, as you noted, we have to associate with devotees, otherwise we become weak and weaker. But obviously we can't surrender with our hearts to persons who themselves are not showing signs of wanting to be actually Krishna conscious. You could try to organize a political rally or something and try to get all the devotees and make a revolution or something, but that doesn't usually help anything either. You can try talking to your GBC member, but often, for various reasons, they think it better to keep the status quo. You could try talking to the authorities, but it's usually not recommended in such cases, because then you become noted as a rebel and someone not to be trusted. It should be hoped that every person coming to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness at least has their local authorities at least set a minimal spiritual standard, but often it's not true. Often it's not the case. Yes, it's the least you can expect that they should follow at least a minimal spiritual standard, if not a better. As a leader, it would be hoped that they'd set a better standard than others, but at least if they should set a minimal standard. But if they don't, if they don't go to Mangalarti regularly or don't chant their rounds, and it's an unfortunate situation. So what can you do? I don't know what you can. I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know what to do, because I've often been faced with such situations and I've never been able to find a satisfactory solution. If you try to say anything, you're demonized, and the other alternative is just to go on and pretend that everything's okay when it's not okay. So I guess you can just go on and pray for better times. Try to find some good association and take it wherever you can get it. I already covered it.
The other question. For example, even with devotees who sometimes speak worldly or semi-Krishna conscious topics, is it better to be quiet? How strict we should be about this point?
Well, first of all, let's consider what constitutes prajalpa, or non-Krishna conscious discussion. As we are active in this world, we have many dealings within it. For instance, just say someone wants to buy a new computer for the temple. So you might have quite some discussion with someone who knows about computers, about all the technical details, what will be the suitable model for the temple. So in that case, you're not talking about anything from Bhagavad Gita. You may talk, for 20 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, about different configurations and different pros and cons of different models of computers. But if the aim is to get the best possible buy you can for serving Krishna, then it doesn't constitute worldly talk per se. But where exactly the borderline comes, where you're just talking about computers, and some people, they're fascinated by computers and they're always talking about all the different features and all this kind of thing, and where it goes over the edge of not being in Krishna's service, that might be a little difficult to define. Srila Prabhupada spoke a lot about current topics, current at that time, of course. His disciples certain of his disciples would read the newspapers to find the most, the most outstanding or outlandish news and all kinds of strange things to tell Srila Prabhupada and get to elicit his comments. So Srila Prabhupada would always give the Shastric light on current events, and in this way make the Bhagavad Gita real for us in our everyday life. Now the election for the next President of the United States of America is nigh. Nigh, N-I-G-H, means coming up. And there are many devotees, or at least some devotees in America who really, each time, they really get into it and they're really interested, and it's too much. I was told that during the World Cup soccer, our temples in Latin America, they practically closed down. World Cup. Euro is not for the South Americans, right? They have their own thing. And in Mayapur, we're told that many brahmacharis, they're up on there's a test match, which means like a major cricket international. That they know what's going on, what the score is, and they're really up with it. This is prajalpa. This is nonsense. So those things which are clearly nonsense, if devotees are talking about it, well, you can walk away or just say, this is nonsense. They can't deny that it's nonsense. Can you deny if they're talking about some sports? There's also that of gossip. This liking to discuss all the different things that people are doing and all their faults and this and that. Now there may be some grounds for that. For instance, if a devotee is performing some activity which is not Krishna conscious, we may discuss that on the basis, how can we, is there anything we can do to help to rectify the situation? But if it's just looking for faults, just to point out this is this is wrong, that's wrong. Well, that in itself is a fault. So yeah, it's better not to get involved in any of these forms of prajalpa. Either you can just openly say to those who are involved in it that this is not conducive for our spiritual advancement, or you can just... Yeah, are there no more? Okay, alright, then we'll just chant Hare Krishna and finish off this. Oh, I see. Well, hey, you can cook, but maybe you should... You can cook and offer to the Lord, but maybe not eat it. From 12, is it? Okay. Okay, well